Daan Kleijn, thank you very much for accepting my interview request. In the age of 17, if I'm informed good, you started to study at the Prins Claus Conservatory, also in Groningen in the Netherlands. Can you tell me why you wanted to study there, and did you have expectations maybe?
Well, I had a good relationship with the guitar teacher there. His name is Winfred Burna, and I met him when I was 15, I think, and I took lessons with him for a while, and that worked very well. So it kind of felt natural to study there. And the school has a good reputation. There's some really nice teachers there, so it felt like a natural step. Yeah.
Okay, and can you tell me what you learned there, the most what you maybe still use today?
Yeah, I mean many things. One big thing was just how just what to like. I kind of knew that I had to practice, put a lot of effort and time into music, but I wasn't sure like where to direct it towards or what to practice so I think that's kind of what I learned there. There was a lot of information and a lot of people suggested a lot of different things of how to practice and what to do. So that's what I mostly learned. I just practiced a lot and just tried to learn as much as possible. I mean, when I started there when I was 17, I definitely wasn't very good or wasn't able to play a lot of great things jazz-wise. So I had a lot to learn.
Yeah, and can you tell me a little bit about your teachers? What teachers you had, and did you have special teachers, maybe kind of mentors, and can you describe them for me a little bit and what you learned from them?
Yeah, so in Groningen I had, so Winfred was a kind of a mentor in that way, since I've known him for a long time, and he was always very nice and very respectful. And then the other teacher there, guitar teacher, was Wingold, German teacher, who kind of gave me a great structure and how to practice like in a structured kind of way, which was very nice. But later on, when I moved to New York and studied there, I got some mentors there as well, like Peter Bernstein, a guitarist who I studied with and still am in contact with and stuff. So he's definitely a mentor, still is.
Yeah. Well, the Prince Claus Conservatory has this beautiful program, New York Comes to Groningen.
Yeah.
And I think you also had contact with teachers that came from New York to teach in Groningen. Yeah. Can you tell me a little bit about them and your experience with them?
Yeah, well, I had a great experience with Freddie Bryant, the guitar teacher who was here when I was here. He was the main guitar teacher. And he was great, a great influence, and also very nice when I moved to New York. I think I stayed at his grandmother's place for a week. So that was great. Like they were all very supportive, and so he was a great guy. But all of them had their own specialties or their own nice things that they brought. That like Mark Rose was here. He had like this energy he always brought was amazing. And Alex Sipiagin, just like dedicated. I mean, they were all very dedicated, but he like seemed very serious, and I mean, every week was very nice because Groningen is kind of a small city, so it was nice to have this influence every week, getting somebody from New York. I think that was good. It's a good system, worked well for me.
Yeah. Well, after your bachelor study, you continued with a master study, and that was also at the New York University. Mm-hmm. You got an award, you won a prize, and with this money, a huge mountain of money, I think you got the possibility to go to New York and study there. And then you studied with three very interesting teachers. So far I know that was Peter Bernstein, the guitarist, then Billy Drummond, the drummer, and Sam Yahel, the organ player. Mm-hmm. That is a really special choice of teachers. Can you please explain me why you choose them, and can you maybe also tell me a little bit about their personalities and also what they gave to you?
Yeah, So Peter Bernstein was an easy choice for me, and I think for most guitarists. He's one of the biggest jazz guitarists that's around these days, and I had like a big pile of CDs, and I think I visited him once when he was in Austria, and when I lived in Philadelphia for a few months, I had some lessons with him, so it was like very easy choice for me to make. So I studied with him for the full 2 years I was there, which was really, really great. He's like, what I got from him is like he's a very strong player. He wasn't maybe the best, or he wasn't like a teacher, like he wouldn't give me homework or give me exercises to do or anything like that, but he would be very, he's such a strong player, so anything I play with him against that, like kind of, you just feel that it's not as strong as what he does. Or I would play like an intro and I would just hear him cough when it wasn't clear, or things like that. Like he was like just the level of detail he has, that's just astounding, and kind of just to be with somebody in a room like that for an hour a week is just a great learning experience for sure. With Billy Drummond, we mostly just played trio in his lessons, and he would kind of give me like a little history lesson each week, which was very nice. He would bring me little discs with songs on them that he thought I should listen to, and then not write the names on them, and I had to figure it out, stuff like that. So it was nice, and also just playing with a drummer like that was a great experience. And Sam is kind of opposite in the way that he's like a very devoted teacher and teaches a lot and really thinks about how he teaches. So with him, it's totally different from Peter, just as great, like they're both very great to study with. But with him, it's more like a process you go to together, which is kind of rare for a jazz teacher, as my experience has been so far. So it was just, all three of them were very different, but all very nice.
Yeah. Can you tell me what they three gave you as a diamond maybe for your career that you have now?
Yeah.
All together, something very special that really brings everything together.
I think they had different things. So for Sam, like really like how to practice like in a smart way. That's really what he taught me. Bernstein, like the level of detail, and with Billy Drummond, I think maybe just the legacy of jazz and really diving deep into like the history of jazz. I think that was kind of what he was trying to show me. So those three things, they're kind of different a little bit.
Okay. Well, you decided to stay then in New York.
Yeah.
Can you please tell me why you wanted to stay in New York, which is a very expensive place?
It is, yeah.
And what difficulties you maybe had in the beginning?
Yeah. So I wasn't definitely not planning on staying. I just thought like 2 years, do my master, and that's plenty of time. But time flew by, and then it's gonna be easy to get like a visa for 1 extra year after you finish your studies. So okay, I'm just gonna do that 1 year and then see what happens, see if I can make it financially and stuff. And actually that kind of worked easier than I thought. Like there's a lot of places to play and a lot of people I met already when I was studying. So I played more than I expected, and I could kind of make enough money to make ends meet. So then time came when that visa expired, and then that's kind of when you have to make a decision. And so I applied for a different visa for 3 years, and then okay, I'll just do those 3 years and see what happens. And those 3 years flew by, and now I'm on my second artist visa, it's called. So yeah, that's how just time flies by. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, can you tell me a little bit about, or describe, maybe it's better to ask that, how it looks like where you live now? Where are you living there?
So I live in Queens, Astoria, which is it's not on Manhattan, which is like the main island, but it's like a couple subway stops away from there. And it's kind of nice actually. It's not super crazy. It's kind of like not super high. Like it's like 3-4 stories high, and I mean relatively quiet. It's not like Groningen or anything, but it's not too crazy. And there's a lot of different people living there, like different from Greece, a lot of people from Greece and Brazil, and it's like kind of a mix, which is very nice. And yeah, it's a great area. I've only lived there though, I've never moved, so I'm not sure. There are many nice areas, but I like where I live right now.
What do you like the most there?
I like that it's a little bit more quiet than most other areas.
So you need the silence also.
I mean, I'm from a small village, so that's yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so somehow you were looking for kind of the same village idea, maybe?
I mean, it's not close. That's why I'm often here in the summers just to get out of the city a little bit. And, yeah.
Okay. Can you tell me how the music scene is for you there in New York or in Queens?
Yeah. So I'm usually in the city. So I'm usually in New York, Manhattan, because that's where most of the clubs are. And it depends. There are many different scenes, like the little small scenes of like really traditional like ragtime jazz, or more people play like very like in the 50s, 60s, like straight ahead bebop, or more modern, or people who mix like more like R&B stuff with jazz. Like there are little like sub scenes everywhere, and where I like to go to like small jazz club and Mesro and Fat Cat, places like that. So that's kind of my scene, and it's really nice. There's music every night, like bands, like 3-4 bands a night at Smalls, for example, and of a very high level. And I like to go there and get inspired, or just hang out with musicians. Like all the musicians go there to hang out too, so it's like kind of a getting together of like people who are all doing the same thing. Like everybody there is kind of working on their art, and in different ways, but very seriously. So that's always I like that about those places, just to go there and kind of get inspired if I need it.
And is it easy to meet people there, musicians?
Yeah, very easy. Yeah, definitely at those places. Yeah, everybody's kind of open, and they're all like, most people are not from New York anyway, so they're all went through the same process of like moving there and meeting people, and it's a common thing for everybody, I think. Yeah.
So you're a big group of strangers there.
Kind of, yeah. There are a couple like natives there that are from New York, but yeah, like 90% is is visiting.
Yeah, if I would come there and visit you one day, which places would you like to show me? Just maybe something that means something special for you, what you would like to share.
So like jazz-wise, or?
Jazz-wise or in general?
So jazz-wise, there's a really nice place that has like kind of like older like swing on Sundays. That's called the Ear Inn. That's kind of, it's free, and it's like a nice Irish pub, but the level of jazz there is really high, and it's something you don't see in many other places. So that's something I really like. That's kind of rare. That's nice. Another thing is Fat Cat. I don't know if people, that's more famous, so most people kind of know that a little bit. But that's like a ping pong billiards place with jazz. It's like a huge basement. It's $3 to get in, so it's not expensive. So that's a really nice place. It's kind of like easygoing, but then at the same time, like these great musicians can be playing there, while like teenagers are like playing ping pong or something. So that's a fun place too. Yeah, those are two places that come to mind.
Yeah. Well, I was just thinking, when you're coming from a small village and you come to such a big place, is it not also feeling maybe not always comfortable?
Oh yeah.
Because it's just too big, maybe.
Yeah.
How do you deal with that?
I just remember like the first year I was very tired. Just by all the impressions, like you go into the subway, there are loud people, crazy people, and you get out of the subway, it's the same thing, and just the whole like a different culture, I think, was just a lot of input. So I was just kind of tired. But that, you get used to that, I think. Yeah. I'm not sure if I would want to live there forever, but yeah, for now it's fine. Like I like it. Yeah.
Okay. Well, did you also visited already Ground Zero?
Yeah, I have.
And how was that?
It's very impressive. Yeah. Also how they redesigned like the architecture they have there now. It's very special. Definitely, if you're there, I would definitely recommend going there. Yeah.
Okay.
It can be busy. Like the museum is kind of busy, I think. But yeah, I think it's called the Swan. Is what it's called. It's very nice to see.
Okay. Well, besides living in New York City, you somehow live everywhere, right?
Yeah.
You travel really a lot to Europe, to Asia, and you teach a lot master classes, and you play also concerts, of course. How did this special business start for you?
Well, that's just by meeting different people, and yeah, and somehow I've been lucky enough that some people I meet invite me to, like I've been to China recently. That was just by somebody who I met in Groningen at the conservatory there. So yeah, it's just meeting people and playing with different people who, then just being lucky that they invite you to come to their country. And yeah, that's been a great part of just making music, just traveling different places. Because then you're not there as a tourist, you just meet local people and you work with them, and it's a very nice experience.
And how is it to live kind of jet set life like this?
Yeah.
I mean, if I know that before you came here, you were in Switzerland.
Yeah, that's right.
And tomorrow you're heading to Amsterdam, and then back, I think, to New York.
Yeah.
So how is this for you to be in planes, to travel a lot? How is that?
It's good. Yeah, I like it. I think, like I said, like you meet different people, and in a nice way, like you meet them in like just making music together with different people. Like in China, I played with local musicians, so I played there for 3 weeks with like 5 different bands, I think, and just meeting those people and playing with them. It's very nice. Yeah, it's a very nice way to meet people, and also energizing. Like I don't get tired from it or something. I'm happy to do it.
But if you do not get tired, do you sleep proper?
Yeah, I have normal sleeping habits, I think. Yeah, but I just remember in China, like I didn't sleep a lot there, but I just by how nice everybody was, I just had energy to go on, which is nice.
Okay, and how do you organize this all? How is the payment?
Yeah, it's
for an expensive place in New York.
Right. Yeah. Well, New York is expensive, but I mean, it's possible if you're creative. If you find a place that's not too expensive, which I have. Like my rent is not crazy high, so that helps. And yeah, I mean, just work hard, and like I said, be creative with. Like if you go on tour, like if you do some master classes at like some private students, that always helps. Or sometimes you can get subsidies from the government or whatever, stuff like that. Yeah.
Okay.
You have to be creative. I think that's.
Okay. Yeah. Well, next to being a performance and recording artist, you also teach.
Yeah.
Please explain what interests you in that area to teach.
Yeah. Well, what I really like with students is like kind of the process I've been through myself. Like I went through a period where I just practiced like a lot. Like I practiced 10 hours a day, and I felt like I needed to work really hard, and I felt that didn't really necessarily work as well. I got some physical issues and just kind of got like a little bit depressed too. And then I found like ways to practice in a different way, maybe a little shorter, but more creative and more focused on result too. And that really helped me and makes my practice a lot more fun. And I like to do that with students too, because a lot of students, they know they have to practice a lot to get good or something, but they don't know how, and like they don't really look critically at what they're doing and if it works or not. And I really like to just, with individual students, kind of go over that with them and see what they can improve. And that's very personal, like it's not going to be the same for every student, so you kind of have to try and see what works with them. So that's why I really like to have students that come every week, so I can kind of do that together with them. Yeah, but I like that process a lot. I think that's very rewarding, and I learn a lot from that too. So it's not just like a job or something, it's like something that kind of gives back to me.
Yeah, in a way you share the blessings, right?
Yeah, that too.
Yeah. Well, can you tell me what problems do face your students the most?
That's the one, actually. That's the one. Yeah. So, like what to practice and how to get better at things. Yeah, definitely. Again, when I was in China, like work ethic is not the problem. Like they work like most of them practice at least 5 hours a day. But then I asked them, like, can you play a song? And they maybe knew one song or something, which is kind of strange if you practice 5 hours a day. So yeah, just kind of talking to them about stuff like that is nice. It's nice to do.
And do you also experience cultural differences in teaching and learning? Especially when it goes to jazz, I can understand that sometimes some cultures, maybe have a different approach to go into jazz and.
Maybe, well, that surprised me that is not so different, since everybody kind of goes into jazz. They kind of go in the same route, like they check out the same musicians, and I do feel like they approach a teacher differently in different cultures, and a teacher has like a different status in different countries, but jazz, at least as far as I've experienced so far, is like it, because it's just kind of goes beyond culture in that way a little bit. Like, since you approach it in the same way, like you go to the same records and you learn it in the same way, I haven't noticed that much difference.
Okay.
Yeah, surprisingly, and that's kind of surprising if you travel to the other side of the world and you kind of speak the same language music-wise, which is kind of odd. But so far that's my experience so far, at least. Yeah.
Well, on your website, you mentioned that you also teach through Skype.
Yeah.
How do you do that?
Well, surprisingly, it kind of works. I was a little skeptical at first, and it's a little bit trickier because if there's already like a language barrier, which there sometimes is, that makes it a little bit more difficult than when you're one-on-one in a room. But I mean, sometimes that's not possible. So then it works. Just I have my students play with like a play along, or they send me like a video in advance, or as long as it's like a weekly thing, it works well. I think just a one lesson usually doesn't really work that well. But if I have like a good image of how a student works and what his or her like issues are, it's great. Yeah.
And you have to make very clear appointments.
Time difference is is a big one. Yeah.
How is this working then? Sometimes you teach them during the night or in the early morning, or?
Yeah, I try to. Well, I mean, my hours are strange anyway, so but sometimes it's like at night for them, or very early for them. Definitely in China, sometimes they have to wake up early. But yeah.
Okay, thank you. Well, you play in a trio since 5 years. Mm-hmm. The trio setting is also very interesting, like bass, double bass, drums, and guitar. And you play a half acoustic guitar, right? Yeah. Can you tell me a little bit why you choose to play half acoustic? What does it give to you?
For me at least, I really like acoustic instruments, and that's maybe why I like that trio format too, because the drums is acoustic, the bass is very acoustic, and myself, I like the acoustic sound of the guitar. I just feel like I can get more different sounds from it, and you can feel it like resonate, and it's like it feels more. I feel more connected to it, at least. I really like the acoustic sound of it. I think maybe because I started with classical guitar or something, that kind of got me. I have electric guitars at home, but I don't know, not really where I'm drawn to as much.
Yeah. Well, I think a half acoustic guitar is, a little bit in the middle between acoustic and electric, and of course the body is pure wood.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a tree somehow. You play on a tree, and how is the feeling to play with such an instrument, with such a body?
Yeah, it's nice, and it's also like it changes too. Like it's not the same every day. Like the weather changes, or if you're a little different, like the instrument responds to it. So it's kind of like a dialogue between you if you have a good instrument. So that's just interesting. Yeah, it's like like I said, like it's a dialogue. It's a person almost, like you're not alone on stage.
And of course you have this buddy always with you. Does it feel that you are one with the guitar, or is it still?
Got a new guitar, so I'm in a weird phase right now. But yeah, I'm very connected. Definitely, like the previous guitar, I still have it. Like I didn't sell it, but I had it for like 6 years, and I played it every day. Yeah, you get very connected. If like that would break my heart a little bit. Yeah.
Okay. Well, in this trio we were talking about, you play since 5 years with Tobias Nijboer on double bass and Joost van Schijk on drums.
Yeah, that's right.
And you recorded 2 CDs. The first one in 2013 is called Trio, and the new one from 2018 is called Passages.
Yeah.
Can you please tell me how you first met, and how did it happen that you decide to work together?
Yeah. Well, so Tobias I've known for a very long time. We're actually from the same village, Peize, the previously mentioned quaint village. So I've known him since I was, he's a little older, so when I was born basically, and my brother and him were friends, and he went to Prins Claus too, and then Joost was a teacher there. Like he started teaching when he was very young at the Prins Claus Conservatory, and he's just I just always admired his playing. He's like one of the best drummers in Holland. So yeah, it kind of felt like a natural thing again. Like it's not like a big planned. I just played a lot with Tobias, and then we had a few sessions with Joost, and it worked effortlessly. So it just felt natural.
And how did you evolve during the years, these 5 years?
Yeah, well, it's a big. I mean, we played a concert a couple of days ago, and obviously we don't play too much because I'm away a lot. But still, you can just feel like it's so nice when you have a band that you play together. They know the songs we're doing, and you just kind of know what I want from them, and so that has changed. I mean, obviously from first getting together to now, that's a big change. I think we're a lot freer than maybe the first record. I'm definitely a little more adventurous, and I think the whole trio is that a little more. Yeah, so I hope that's gonna continue a little bit too.
Yeah, well, this trio is a Dutch one.
Yeah.
With Dutch musicians. Even you play and live everywhere, and you, of course, your home base is in New York. How do you organize that?
Well, I'm here pretty regularly, so usually either I get invited for something, or I have like a CD release tour or things like that. Internet, it's just organized email and stuff like that. So yeah, it's not as often as I wanted to because I'm away a lot, but still, yeah, I think a couple of times a year I'm here and we do some gigs, so that's always nice.
Okay. And do you also have a New York trio?
Yeah, it's a little more flexible, like as terms of like bass drums trio. I have like just a couple of bass players that I like and a couple of drummers that I'm happy with to play with. And but recently I've started in kind of a new project with organ, because my next recording is going to be with the organ player. So that's kind of my new trio that I'm trying to kind of work with and write songs for and stuff like that. So that's on the horizon.
And how did you find out that you wanted to work with these specific people there? I mean, you have a huge bunch of possibilities, right?
Yeah, there's a big scene there. So which is great. But just by playing with different people, like I do gigs like almost every day, so you play with a different bass player, and then there are a couple ones that you really like and respond and are nice guys too, which I think is important as well. So you play with so many people that at the end you just have like a top 5 or something.
Yeah.
And for different things, you have different people who are like a better fit or something as well. Yeah.
And what does fascinate you to play in a trio setting? I mean, it's a really basic setting, right?
That's what I like about it. Like, it's very basic. There's a lot of space. Definitely for me, is like like I play the melody, but also the chords. I can go as every direction I kind of want, which is nice in a trio. So I like that basic format. Yeah, I like that a lot.
And can you tell me a little bit more about how you compose? Somehow you play harmonics, but you also are rhythmically involved in your band and the trio. How do you do this? How do you compose? How do you start? What inspires you maybe? And do you have maybe a ritual to start?
So this always changes for me, like the way I compose. Recently, I've studied a lot of Chopin and kind of tried to extract some ideas from like classical music and just kind of write as much as possible. That was kind of my idea, and just kind of see if I wanted to try to make the writing process less like critical, almost less important by writing more. I wanted to make what I was writing like less important in a way, so I could just write and more freely. So that's what I've recently been doing, which has been nice, and the input from the classical music has been interesting too. But I usually just search for different ways of doing it. I haven't had the same method for a year or something. Like, it's always changing. With most of my practice, it usually changes.
Yeah, but there's kind of a language, right? I mean, you use a kind of an alphabet. You have notes. How do you do that then? Do you write it on paper, or do you start with a blank sheet of paper and start from more or less nothing, or do you write your ideas in a computer program, or are you singing something ideas in your phone maybe?
I usually record like a little idea, like let's say I'm working on something and I find something interesting. I usually record it and then just leave it alone and come back to it the day after with like a clean ear. I probably forgot what it sounded like exactly, and just see if I still find it interesting. And then if I do, I just kind of keep messing around with it. And then I write it. I have like a big music sheet that I write on. That usually looks like a mess after I'm composing, but that's kind of like the computer is at the very end, for me at least.
Yeah. And do you also have the situations maybe that you start to compose something and you really start with nothing? Also no background, no ideas really, and you just start with something? Do you have something like that?
But if you start with nothing,
that's then something.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
So, sometimes you start with like you say, like a blank canvas. But usually I have like a little idea or like a little mistake I make that sounds cool, or like something I hear somebody else doing, or it's like usually like something that sparks my interest, that sets off.
Yeah.
Like that.
Well, your last CD has also titles, and of course you're not singing.
No.
So can you tell me a little bit about the background of the titles? What do they mean, especially for your own compositions? Do you have kind of a storyboard for them? Do you write like poems maybe, or do you write a story, just some things before, like in a letter, and then put it to music, or how is this going?
For me, it's usually more like an image that I have of like the period I was writing the song, or that's kind of connected to what I was writing. Like for example, I have a song that's called 3 Colors, and that's on my old CD, And that's something I was writing when I was at my parents' place, and there's like a big like nature part of town there that has like these beautiful like purple and yellow and kind of colors. So that kind of just reminds me of that. Like, and I was writing that song when I was there in the summer. So it's usually like an image that I have or like a feeling, that comes to mind.
And you also have melodies.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell me where these melodies come from? How do you organize them?
Depends really per composition. Again, like that can be like something I take from Chopin or something, or sometimes I just record myself improvising for a little bit and something comes up, or it's from different, can be anything. Like and I think it should be like that. It should not be constrained to one thing. It's just open.
And is it also possible that you travel somewhere and you somehow get ideas or images for melodies on the road, and then you...
Yeah, it's actually more when I'm not practicing as much. Like that's when I hear more music. So when I'm on the road and not practicing, just only playing gigs, that's usually when like ideas start to just come up more and more. Yeah, that's true.
And do you have a general musically message? Is there something you want to say with new music that you could put in words?
Yeah.
Now.
Do I have it? I think so. Yeah, but I'm not sure what it is exactly yet. No, I'm still kind of finding that stuff out. I think. Which is really nice too. Like I feel like that search for who I am as a person, kind of like is parallel to who I am musically. So I think both of them are still like in development, and still kind of a search, which is great. Like I love that part of making music, the searching and finding new things, and so my message in music is still in progress, I think.
And how is this situation between you and the audience? How do people react on your music? And how important is it for you to have an audience, even in a live performance?
Yeah. I think how do you react? It depends a little bit on the situation, of course. But generally I feel like if you can say one thing about my music, like it's not very macho or something, so like it's more like subtle and like that. So I think my music works the best like in smaller venues, not like big stadiums and stuff like that. So I think that's important for me. Having an audience is important. I like studying by myself and being by myself and practicing. I like that part of music a lot, but I need the audience at some point, otherwise also like the pressure of performing is like like a part of it that I like, and so I need that every so often, otherwise
Do you have a composition you're working on now?
Yeah, I have about like 12 or something.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't, like I don't finish one, I just kind of work with one for a while and then I switch to another one and kind of sick of the first one and I go back to it and I'm like, oh, it wasn't that bad. Like it kind of goes crisscross most of the time.
Yeah. Well, this one composition you're working on now, does it also have a melody?
Yeah.
Can you hum this melody for me?
Well, like I said, like there are like a lot of different ones, so I can't think of one now that I can hum.
Or something you have in mind?
Not right now, I think, no. Sorry.
Not right now? No humming?
No humming.
Okay, well, your new CD contains your own compositions, and I read it, melancholic Brazilian songs, and careful chosen jazz standards. Please explain your choice.
Of the jazz standards, or?
For all.
For all of them. Well, that's also, again, kind of a natural process. Like you hear, like I listen to a lot of music, so whatever grabs my attention, that can be something I do. And in New York, I play, they're maybe a little different, maybe different from Groningen. Like the repertoire in New York is very big, so I play with some people who know like way more songs than I do, like over 1,000 songs, and they know the original recordings and different keys and everything. So playing with people like that, I discover a lot of new songs too, and they kind of show me songs I should check out. Or so I discover a lot of maybe not so famous jazz songs, maybe a little more obscure songs through playing with people. And and then just a couple stick that I like and that work well on the guitar, and those end up on the record.
Yeah, well, these melancholic Brazilian songs, what do you like about melancholy, and then in connection with Brazilian music?
Yeah, well, I think there's a lot of melancholy in the Brazilian music. I listen to like bossa nova and jobim and things like that. So that's also, it's very connected to the guitar, the bossa nova, and just I like sad songs. Are just attract me. Yeah, I always like ballads and like I said, not too like just like me, like I'm not super outgoing or very extrovert. I like the introvert part of that. So
yeah, well, you mentioned a ballad. Can you describe what a ballad is in a musically way?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's usually slower in tempo and like maybe a little more subdued in like vibe. So it's not as maybe less loud. Maybe it's softer in timbre. That's kind of what a ballad is. But it can go anyway. Like it doesn't have to stay there necessarily. But that's kind of where it starts, I think. So
it's kind of a poem, right?
Yeah. But then anything can be a poem. Like a fast song can be a crazy poem.
Yeah.
Or like, I mean, yeah, just energy-wise, it's maybe a little like softer or, yeah.
Yeah. Well, we live in a very crazy world at the moment. Yeah. Do you think that we need ballads now?
I definitely do. So, and yeah, people have to decide for themselves what they need. But for me, I like to listen to quieter music and simple, in a way, simple compositions. Like I don't need too much. Just like a nice, good sound, like a nice acoustic sound. It's just, yeah.
Okay. Can you tell me a little bit how you organized this last CD? Like how to decide which song to put on the beginning and which one to end with and all the rest?
Mm-hmm. So I usually start with I have a couple more songs that don't make it to the recording. So I go from big to small, kind of like I have and then once they're recorded, you kind of think about what's a nice song to open with. In this case, it just starts with bass and drums, without me, which I think is kind of interesting. Since you're only with the trio, it's nice to not give away everything right at the first note. So that kind of made me want to have this first song on the CD as the first song. And so there are different reasons why you want a different, the second song, or the first two songs are pretty bass heavy actually, because he starts the first song and he plays the melody on the second song too. So yeah, yeah, that's on the latest recording. Yeah.
Well, and how was the recording? You chose the Studio 150 in Amsterdam to record your CD, which is a very special place.
It is, yeah. Yeah, it's a beautiful old church in Amsterdam Noord, and that was it was very nice. Just it's high, like most churches, very high and very spacious sound. And we were all in that big room, and that was great. I don't like the small studios where you're in a little box and you have to close your door and you have headphones on and stuff. This was just in one room and very natural again. Yeah, just acoustic. I like the acoustic part of that too. Yeah.
So you're happy with the result?
Yeah.
Okay. In general, what do you prefer to have in a good sound?
Yeah. Well, for me, it's acoustic, clear, kind of warm sound. But like you said, like we talked about before about the acoustic guitar, I like that's for me is very nice. Like I don't want a thin sound or something. I need some punch, I need some wood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you are a musician, you're a guitarist. Do you also dance?
Yes, I dance, but not in front of cameras. Yeah, but sure, yeah, and I still play drums too, which I think is nice. Like that makes that rhythm connection. Yeah, but I think dancing is good. Yeah.
And what kind of dance do you dance?
I don't think for my dance there's no description of there's no genre. I think it's outside of genres.
Can you tell me how you describe the quality of your life?
Yeah, well, I think there's a lot of things that are very high in terms of like the cultural level of like cultural variety that I get, and just socially like meeting all these nice people and traveling around the world, which is very great. On the other hand, there's some like it's not a very stable life. Like I don't have a lot of securities, which that's I guess the downside or something. But in general, I'm very happy with what I'm doing. I think
And how do you understand beauty in sound? What is a beautiful sound for you?
It's kind of what I was saying before. Like if it's a clear sound, and there's so many beautiful sounds too. Like I can listen to electronic music and find that beautiful too. Or there's so many different beauties, like or beauties in the sky. Sometimes that you kind of have to listen to a couple times to discover that it's beautiful, or that is something you didn't hear before. So, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I have just a few more questions. One of them is, please describe the moment before you touch your guitar.
Yeah.
How is that?
Usually, these days I actually try to like either go to the gym before, or like I run a lot, or I meditate or something. Just kind of like I want it to be like kind of, and I have like my practice room kind of set up in a way that it's kind of not distracting. I want it to be kind of like a special thing a little bit. So so it kind of feels like that a little bit, like a special, I'm just happy every time, like, and I just strum the strings, like it's a good happy feeling. And I want, like, it's kind of like a ceremony a little bit in good days. There are also bad days where it's just I have to do something or something.
Well, how do you create a solo?
That's a good question. The main thing for me these days is just like kind of being present in the moment, like kind of being listening and just being aware of what's happening around you. It's kind of like the same question as like how do you have a conversation with a person? It's a big question, but at the same time, I think if you're, I think the same principles work for a good listener, or a good somebody you have a nice conversation with, listens well and has a lot of knowledge, and I think that's kind of the same with like a good solo. So I'm really trying to just be aware of what's happening, responding to it, not being kind of like overly prepared and ready to do what I think should happen. Just kind of be aware of what's happening in that moment, I think, is what I'm working on now, at least.
So there's not really a system to have for a solo. It just comes in the moment.
It should, yeah. I mean, there's a system behind it, just like with a conversation. There's grammar and there's vocabulary and all that stuff. But when you're talking, you shouldn't be thinking of that, obviously. Otherwise, you just go nuts.
Yeah.
So same with music. Like there's a lot of systems and a lot of different systems. But in the end, that that should be in the background. Yeah.
How do you deal with students that do not learn what they need to learn?
Well, ideally, if they're nice, like you kind of look for. Usually, there's a reason why they don't do it, and there are usually a couple of reasons. Like it can be, and I've had this myself too. Like a teacher would show me something, and I thought, oh, that's really good. I should really do that, but then I wouldn't do it for some reason. And usually, there is a reason you can kind of discover. That can be either like it's too hard. Like you have to find a level that's not too hard. Just like reading a difficult book is not, you're not really want to do it or something. So you have to find a level that's good for a person, or find something that maybe it's just not interesting to them. So you have to then I usually try to change the way we approach that subject. So, and then hopefully see if that works, if you approach it in a different way, if the student then does do it, or you have a lazy student that just doesn't do anything.
Yeah, but what about these students? Maybe they try to find out a way how to create a rhythm, to get a rhythm feeling, but they have problems to create that. Mm-hmm. How do you help them?
Well, rhythm can be can be tricky. Not tricky necessarily, but that's a huge subject. So then you kind of look for what part of rhythm are you having trouble with. Is it maybe fast tempos, or is it like really your swing feel, or is it? It can be many things. So you have to kind of dial it down to what the issue is, and then you kind of look for ways to deal with that thing. But you have to be kind of precise, and that's what a lot of students don't do. Like they say, I have bad rhythm, and that's it. They don't really think about, but what part of the rhythm is not so good, or and have you tried something that specifically addresses that issue? So that's usually, just try to find what exactly is the thing that's holding you back. Is super interesting, actually.
And do you have a general advice for students, for young musicians or guitar players?
Yeah, I think that's kind of like if you see if you can practice in a smart way, like a scientist who does experiments. Like you're experimenting and record yourself, and then see if the experiment worked. Like a month later, you should have results. Otherwise, you have to change something about your experiment, I think. So I think you have to be very critical about. It's great, you have to put in a certain amount of time, but then the quality of the time is, I think, what I definitely wasted a lot of time on, which is fine, like I don't regret it, but I think if you can be more like a scientist, approach your study like that, kind of restricted but free in a way too, I think that's kind of my advice.
And what is your life philosophy? Do you have something like that?
I think that's another one that's still in development. Yeah, and changing to. So right now I don't have a life philosophy. I just I like what I do. I like just a positive thing that music is for most people and for society. So I'm very happy with that. I'm kind of confused with like the whole politics thing and the economy and like global warming and things like that. It's just kind of, I'm just happy like I'm not working at a big corporation or something, and just kind of trying to make some nice art and trying to make people happy with that, I think.
Yeah. And who are you in private when there's maybe no music around? Same. Does this exist?
Yeah, I'm just the same. I mean, that would be strange if I'm all of a sudden a different guy, I think. I try to be the same when I play guitar as a person, because I think that's the same thing too. So I'm just trying to be one guy, which is hard enough anyway.
And do you have other hobbies maybe beside when you have vacation maybe? Do you have vacation sometimes?
I'm not good at taking vacation. I like to do things, so whenever I'm free, I I roast coffee at home. That's a hobby. I like to cook. I like to just do stuff. I made a table recently. Like just whenever I have free time, I just find something to do. Yeah.
Okay. And what is the most beautiful thing about being a musician for you?
I think that's just the positive, just trying to make something nice that people can enjoy and that doesn't really harm anybody, which is rare, like, unfortunately. Yeah, I like that, meeting people who are working on something. I like working on something for so long and searching for my own style in that world. Like I said, like that search, I really enjoy that a lot. Yeah, just general like good vibes or something. I don't know. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
thank you.
for having
And
me.
good luck with everything.
Thanks. All right. Yeah. Nice.